Ready? Call the board. The March 21st, Town Sylva Board of Commissioners. I'd like to welcome everyone. We do have a member absent today, Paige has Parks and Rec.
Yes, Commissioner Walter wanted me to express his apologies to the board and staff for missing the last two meetings. But I told him he's exactly where he needs to be with his family.
I would entertain a motion that we approve the agenda.
Make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed by like sign, and the motion carries. Also, entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll make-
Never mind, that's not even on there. I'm sorry. Okay. So now we'd open the floor for public comments. We have two people signed up to speak. Ms. Leanne Young.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time and for your service to our community. I wish to share a letter that I wrote with input from many of my fellow downtown business owners. We write as business owners in downtown Sylva concerned about the Sylva Pride Parade and potential road closure and its impact on us. Sylva Pride is not the only downtown festival that requires road closures. To honestly evaluate economic impacts, we need to consider all festivals that impede traffic. Greening Up the Mountains, WCU Homecoming, the Christmas Parade. So those close longer stretches of roadway for longer periods of time than Pride, which last year occupied 2 blocks on Main Street for less than an hour. Are we suggesting doing away with any of these community events? Absolutely not. The reason is simple. Our downtown is the heart of our community. While we might see less foot traffic immediately during an event, events draw people into our downtown, many of whom choose to return to shop or to dine. The indirect economic impact of events might be hard to calculate, but it is certainly felt in the oft-heard refrains from visitors about how charming, quirky, and welcoming Sylva is. We recognize that Sylva's limited resources are a challenge, but a community finds ways to pay for things it values. How can we not see the value and beauty in a joyful, homegrown, community-affirming, and well-attended Sylva Pride event, which last year brought over 250 people to our downtown? If funding is the primary limitation, please consider seeking alternative sources of financial support or allowing organizers of these events to assist you in meeting these obligations. There are many things your downtown businesses do that are not motivated by economics. Buying ads in the high school yearbooks, donating products and gift cards to silent auctions and raffles that benefit sports teams, class field trips, and local nonprofits. We do this because we are actively creating the community in which we wish to live. Sylva Pride is now very much a part of this community. As representatives of Sylva's downtown businesses, we encourage you to consider allowing this event to take up space within our community rather than sidelining and minimizing it. And if, after careful consideration, you still decide to make this event smaller than it deserves, please recognize that you are not doing so at the behest of many of your local businesses. Respectfully signed by owners of 30 downtown businesses, including Noon, Terry Clark Photography, Innovation Brewing, Mountain Flora, City Lights Bookstore, Baxley's Chocolates, White Moon, Ilda, Sante the Wine Bar, Meatballs Pizzeria, Lulu's on Main, In Your Ear Music, Black Balsam Outdoors, Motion Makers, City Lights Cafe, The Cut, Snake Song, WNC Farm to Table, End of Maine, Pinnacle Relief and Zen Body Work Studio, Birthstone Wellness, Gertrude and Lloyd Salon, Breadhead's Tiki Shack, Wild Kitchen Supply, Little Cove Bread, Studio 505, Snake Song, Red Trillium Tattoo, Dixie and Company. Thank you. I have copies of the letter for you guys as well. I think some of you may have already received them, but just in case. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Next person signed up is Bergen Mack.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Bergen Mackey. I grew up in Marshall, North Carolina, about an hour and 15 minutes away. For me, our local economies comes first. As somebody who grew up spending every Saturday morning at our local farmers market, selling my family's products, I know that when Main Street does well, the town does well. When the town does well, the county, so on and so forth. Empowering our local businesses is why I'm here today to implore you to work with Sylva Pride. After meeting with Chris Hatton and Bern Peters, along with our former past chair, Travis Roundtree, who you may already know, it really broke my heart to hear that some of the businesses didn't do as well as they should be doing on a festival of this scale. That said, I wanted to sort of take Sylva Pride into a new direction. Instead of a festival impeding traffic on the busiest day of our week, Saturday morning, I used to work that lunch rush with Bern. I know how important that is for our local town. Instead of putting a festival right in the middle of when our town should be making all of its money, I'm hoping to expand Sylva Pride into a whole weekend of activities. Things that bring folks into our downtown to empower our local businesses and to show folks both inside and out what our town is all about. As a young transgender woman, I have never felt so welcomed in a small town like this. I moved here, from Western, because I felt like this town gave me what I was hoping for. I found a small town where I was accepted. And so I'm hoping that we can model that love and acceptance and harmony and sew up some of these divides that we see in the news with a Sylva Pride Festival sponsored by the town of Sylva. If you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer any of them. But I implore you again once more, we just want to work with y'all. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's everyone signed up to speak on the public comment, is that correct? Next thing on the agenda is the reports, starts with the mayor's report. I followed up a little bit on a subject that Mary brought up a couple of meetings ago about some misinformation about the paper. And I spoke with some of the leaders there, and they spoke with the owner, and if wanted to make it publicly known that anyone who would like a tour of the paper mill, it's ready and available for you at any time. We need to just call the mill, tell them you want to go on a tour. You understood for the town of Sylva that was available for everyone. And I would encourage all the board members to do it. So that's all I have to report.
I apologize for me missing last Thursday's meeting. Fifth graders at Fairview had an amazing literacy night, and Jeff Bass and I have really cool fifth graders that presented. So thank you for letting me miss that meeting. I want to bring to your attention United Christian Ministries Superhero Stroll. Third annual is happening this Saturday. Smoky Mountain High School. It's just a stroll, just a walkathon, no competition, just walking together for a good cause. So if you're looking for a place to walk, you head to the high school on Saturday. That's all I have.
To follow up with what Mary said, I volunteered to United Christian Ministries. I'm gonna be one of the judges down there. And they say it's gonna be a great, fantastic time, so I look forward to seeing you out there. Also, I'd like to say, I'd like to everybody give their hearts and prayers out to Brad Walbridge's dad. It's a tough time for anyone's father. I know my father went through eye bypasses, so it's very difficult. That's about all I've got to say.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on what Judy's feeling about Pinnacle Park. After reading the information sheet, there's a lot of things that I didn't know about the park, so I'm interested in finding out more. about the park, and you can make the trip up there this summer. So, thank you, Jay, for the information. That's it.
Good morning. I do not have a report.
All right. And that brings us to our manager's report.
Morning. So after the meeting, we have our budget work session, and I anticipate that will go relatively fast, but we want to talk about the playground equipment for Bryson Park also. And Bridge Park project is still on track. Bioretention is being installed this week. Planning should begin April the 1st, and paving should be around April the 15th. So we're on track for that. And we have a finalized written agreement for the cat sculpture permanent lawn at Bridge Park for the American Cat Museum. And the Chamber's Friends Night Out is March the 28th from 12 to 6:30 downtown. This always a fun time to shop local for businesses, so we're very grateful to the Chamber for putting that on. And just a reminder that town offices will be closed March 29th for Good Friday.
Thank you. Public Works.
Morning, everybody. We'll give some project updates. Paige covered the Bridge Park, the downtown restroom. We have finally reached an agreement. The contractors agreed to subcontract with a local excavator. We should be seeing some movement on that quickly. Bryson Park, with y'all's direction at the conclusion of today's meeting, we're gonna get that playground equipment on order. About an 8 to 10 week lead time on those. We can warehouse that offsite if we need to. We'll try to coordinate that installation with the picnic pavilion upgrades. Odell's got a first set of drawings. I'm gonna meet with him next week, talk about expanding that picnic area, see what that'll look like. As soon as we have that completed, we're gonna send that out to contractors and get some pricing. Allen Street, our final inspection by the DEQ got delayed by about 2 weeks, that's good. The more vegetation we can get up there, the better. Pending that final inspection, that project will be 100% complete. Civil Design Concepts is working on their final as-built plans to get to us. And at the conclusion of that, we'll be settling our bills with Worcester, and that project will be done. Other updates, our staff's been doing a lot of ditch and drainage work around town, Laurel Branch, Caldwell Street, Inslee Street, the last couple of days, trying to get that kind of thing wrapped up before spring mowing commences. Be patching potholes townwide the next several weeks as asphalt becomes available. The Department on Aging and Hands on Jackson have partnered to get a volunteer effort to stain the playground at Poteet Park. Shooting for a late May to early June date on that. That's much needed and greatly appreciated. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Police Department.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, working on very much working on staffing. We're doing a lot of interviews, trying to find the right applicants for our vacant positions. Brianna Foster, who many of you have met, is our newest officer. She just completed field training. Sergeant Ryan Griffith was her field training officer. He's pretty proud of where she's at, so she'll start this weekend for the first time in a police car driving around on her own. It's exciting for a police officer to be able to not have somebody there grading everything that you do all day long. So good for her. I want to acknowledge that we lost Abby Slaney to the Cherokee Indian Police Department. That's a big hit for us. Abby was loved by our community, so wish her well, and we appreciate all the hard work that she gave us while she was here for sure. Event wise, we are deep into the planning agreement with the mountains. Of course, we're only I think 5 weeks away, so it's coming pretty fast. Saw on Black Rock was last week. It went really well. No problems with that. I'll give a quick community care update. Community care is people are a lot more interested in that than knowing that we calibrated our radars in all our cars this week. At least nobody cares about that. But the community care is a little different, so I'll tell you a little bit about that. We had on March the 4th, we had a symposium that was hosted by Western Carolina University, and they invited law enforcement agencies from Buncombe County West, and we had well over 20 different law enforcement agencies attend that. And so kind of spreading that, the program is growing really fast. And so this is sort of what's to help facilitate that. So lots of good feedback, lots of agencies, and we're talking about the western half of the state that are really interested in and getting the co-responder model in place. It's exciting to be in the front end of that for sure. And on that same vein, later on I presented much like what we presented to the board here a little while back a presentation doing that. And then the National Police Social Work Conference, which is, they've had three, this will be the third annual. They've invited us to come to New Haven, Connecticut and speak and present our program to the country, really. So that's exciting. We'll see how that goes, but that's exciting stuff for sure. And then the community care work can be really frustrating, but it can also be really, really rewarding. And so just a kind of a note for this past 30 days, we saw two folks that were here in our town homeless who now have stable housing. And that's big thank you to our community partners. It's not always us doing that. We just sort of play a role in that. So that's a really big deal, especially for those two people, right? So we're working on the next phase of community care, working on how the next phase of it sort of goes into, we have our responses and we have our community care policy, the co-responding thing, but what we're moving into now is getting the community involved and getting them to take on these situations. We get called to a lot of situations where it's a mental illness situation, not a criminal situation. But we're 24 hours a day and the police are who you call when that happens. And so the next phase really is going to pull the community in and kind of give them back some of that responsibility of, like, if you're mental health, this is a mental health situation. And so we need you to come out here and help us do this. So excited about that too. We've been busy. I won't do this month's stats like I have before, but already this year we've got well over 2,000, I call them actions in our CAD report. We don't report everything in our computer system that we do, obviously, but we do a lot of things. And so if you're thinking about just in a few months, we've already got over 2,000 things that we've been doing. So we've been busy. So, any questions at all?
I'm good. All right. Thanks, sir. Fire department.
Before, we continue to be real busy. We've run a little over 300 calls, mainly medical calls and 1050s. We've had a couple of structure fires, and right now it's mainly brush fire season. We've had several brush fires this year. People don't realize how dry it is, so be careful if you're burning outside. As I know, we had a new person a couple of months ago, or a month ago, Alan Orcutt. He started and he's doing real well. Any questions?
Good. Thank you. Our Main Street report.
Good morning. Last week, Commissioner Newman and I attended the Main Street Conference in Goldsboro, and the sessions were so inspiring. We're working on integrating a lot of what we learned into the program, so we're very excited about what's coming up. As Chris mentioned, the Greening Up the Mountains Festival is fast approaching. We still need volunteers to help with this amazing festival. We couldn't do it without them. So anyone in the public who wants to sign up, if they go to mainstreetsylva.org or greeningupthemountains.com, they can sign up to volunteer. They get a free t-shirt. They automatically get entered into the Friends of Main Street program, where they can earn some free swag whenever they hit milestones of volunteering. DOT 107 update, they're finalizing the right-of-way acquisitions with just a few remaining, including some signs that need to be set back. They've already started clearing foundations for the next phase, which will be utility setbacks. And we have frequently asked questions and the latest plans on the town's website, townofsylva.org, if anyone's interested. We were so fortunate to receive 2 grants that are going to propel some of our projects. We got funding from the Jackson Arts Council for the restoration of the Sylva Supply mural on the former C.J. Harris or farmhouse building on Main and Spring. And since that building is historic, we received guidance from the State Historic Preservation Office and Jackson County Historic Preservation Commission. And this mural will be restored by Tyler Watrous, who's a local sign maker. We also learned that the TDA, Jackson County TDA, graciously approved our application to provide the remaining $20,000 of funding needed to fully fund the downtown facade grant program. We're working on the application, and once all the Mill Street renderings are complete, we'll have a property and business owner meeting. And that's going to be April 16th at 5:30 at Town Hall. It will be available on Zoom as well. So we're working on sending some information and a letter of interest out to building owners and property owners in the Main Street district so we can move forward with this program. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. And I assume possible report comes from this page.
Yes, so the Clearwell project will be dead in June. TWASA's in their budget process also, and they have completed their work on the Harris Estates project. So that's the one that Mountain Projects is doing on Second Avenue. I think they're about a month from being in those houses. Sounds like.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Moving on to new business, first thing on, new business is the presentation, of the resolution for Vance Street. So, at this time, we're gonna take a short recess of the official meeting and take a picture with Vance family for their, presentation. So this time, I didn't have a motion as to take a short recess.
I'll make that motion.
Motion, have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Yeah.
All opposed by like sign, and the motion carries.
You're fine. I need to get behind you guys. You're all. You're fine. I'm underdressed.
Mark's not here yet.
Alrighty.
He should be here I mean, we got here early, but you know, we told him 9:30.
We're in recess, so David, you want to tell some jokes or?
I never remember it.
Still on there.
Still on camera. We can still tell it.
Oh.
Choose your joke here.
Very good.
Darn, we dance. He's here. He's here.
It's your guys' break.
Yes, he did. We grew up in there.
And when are you gonna bring your Asheville friends back and sell us some yummy bread and comments?
Oh, gosh, their business is exploded. I'm not sure they'll ever take it on the road again. That was very sweet.
Okay. Are you?
Good. Was it Thanksgiving or Easter? Here.
It was Thanksgiving.
Made one of the holidays easier.
I know. That was really sweet. The timing was great.
They have a disorder, it's called Mother.
Here too.
She got.
Yeah.
We go right back.
Thank you, John.
This is time. I'm gonna be
All I know is that I spent a lot that's all. No.
So we'll bring those on.
Yeah.
So if anyone tell me to step forward and toward John behind them, you're not going to.
Thank you.
This discussion.
Let's say,
Yes.
what about Mark Blitz?
I love the boot sculpture. The boot sculpture that I sent you.
Resolution of the Town of Sylva Board of Commissioners to rename a portion of Municipal Drive to Vance Street in recognition and appreciation for the service of R.O. Vance. Whereas the Town of Sylva Board of Commissioners would like to recognize the service of R.O. Vance to the citizens and communities of the Town of Sylva and Jackson County. And whereas Mr. Vance began his working career on Main Street, Sylva in 1947, working at Winn-Dixie Supermarket, followed by Western Auto from 1948 to May of 1963. And whereas in May of 1963, Mr. Vance, along with his wife Willetta, opened Vance Hardware on Main Street, Sylva, and were successful business owners until their retirement in December of 2013. And whereas Mr. Vance was a self-taught mechanic in the business where they stocked an array of items from pressure cookers to mechanical parts and everything in between. He also maintained summer homes for residents and was known as the best key maker in Jackson County. And whereas, in addition to his service as a business owner, Mr. Vance was a member of the Sylva Fire Department from 1959 to 1984, retiring after 25 years of service to the community as a volunteer. And whereas in 2010, to recognize Mr. Vance's Main Street service, the town of Sylva granted a special parking place for his service vehicles, as well as honoring he and his wife Willetta as grand marshals in the town of Sylva Christmas parade in 2012. And now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the town of Sylva Board of Commissioners do hereby wish to publicly express their gratitude for his 50 years of service to the town of Sylva by renaming a portion of Municipal Drive from the Sylva Fire Department to the intersection of Allen Street to Vance Street in his honor. Be it further resolved that Mr. R.O. Vance will be remembered as a generous, kind, caring citizen of the town of Sylva, who most notably could fix everything but a broken heart. Adopted this 14th day of March, 2024.
You don't have a sign. You know, kind of turning to the side of the next night. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. They can crowd them in. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. One more. And I'm gonna do one with this camera. Everybody hang on. Okay. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Okay, thank you.
So much.
My fans.
Amanda Vance Field.
Okay. Who's next? You're in there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And
He was like,
John did. John did.
well, it's sure.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, board. Thanks so much.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's what I'm going It's so.
Yes, just, no, just give some, give him them. Don't let you something.
Is it?
There you go.
Okay. 12-year-old.
That's why I'm here. Yeah.
Somebody and.
Ready?
But everything was a lot like.
Congratulations. Big and big. The next thing on our agenda is a presentation from Jay Coward, Pinnacle Park.
I just have to add that R.O. Vance and Letta were also devoted members of the First Baptist Church still their entire lives. I'm here today to make a presentation about Pinnacle Park Foundation The foundation is a nonprofit, corporation. It has a board of directors. It has a 501(c)(3) application pending. And it has a memorandum of understanding with the, town of Sylva. And it occurred to me that you might not have a copy of it, so I made some copies. This is the memorandum that, was entered into in 2021, between the town of Sylva and Pinnacle Park. The memorandum, has several features to it, but one of the things that, is in it is, a section that says we advise and report regularly to the town on plans, uses, and facilities and activities in the park. So that's what I'm here today to do, is to, perform that obligation. And, one of the things that the town has accepted and agreed to is to receive, debate, and take action upon recommendations by the foundation. So that's one of the things that the town is obligated to do under this memorandum of understanding. We also have similar oral understandings with the Blue Ridge Parkway, which has, owns part of the ridge from Water Rock Knob out towards Black Rock, with the Nature Conservancy, which owns property that's adjacent to the park. As a matter of fact, I think the Nature Conservancy invested in the 2,000 acres that they own because of the park. I think they saw that it became a park and they thought that they could add to it, as well as the Southern Islands Appalachian Conservancy, which actually owns Black Rock itself. Part of it. The Nature Conservancy owns the other part of it. And we also have an understanding with the U.S. Forest Service, which owns property next to the Pinnacle Park itself. I've made many presentations to the town since 1992. This is the first time I've had to address some of you who are new to the board, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I've prepared, and Blitz said he read the brief history of Pinnacle Park. I prepared that in 2019, I think, was when it was a 100-year anniversary of the creation of the national park system in the United States of America. And someone at the Herald asked if I would just write a brief history of our participation in that park system of the United States. And so that's what that's for. And I encourage you, if you haven't read it, you'll know a lot more about Pinnacle Park. And if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. For most of the 20th century, the headwaters of Fisher Creek was the watershed for town of Sylva and its municipal water system. It consisted of 1,088 acres. In 2019, 441 were added on the backside of Plot Balsam Ridge on the Black Rock Creek, which drains into the Soco. So Pinnacle Park actually drapes over the Plot Balsam Ridge, and it's now 1,529 acres. Town of Sylva owns that in fee simple absolute. In 1991, a effort was started with the Southwestern Community Development Organization to try to address new clean water rules that were being imposed nationwide. And the economy of scale dictated that we should probably join Sylva, Hillsborough, Webster, Jackson County, and Western Carolina University into what became the Tuckasegee Water and Sewer Authority, combining all those systems into one. And that happened. And I went to see Mayor John Bunn at the time and said, we need to do something with that watershed. It's going to be taken offline and it's no longer going to be a watershed. And he said, what do you propose we do? And I said, we need to make a park out of it. He gave me the green light to start promoting the idea. In 1992, this town board passed a resolution that said that the park was going to be held pursuant to a resolution, and it would be used to preserve the former watershed so that it would be dedicated only to conservation, recreation, preservation, and those uses. Mineral and timber extraction were expressly excluded from that resolution. And so we formed Pinnacle Park Foundation, Inc. at that time. And we began to do what we needed to do to develop Pinnacle Park. There was a mass Fraser fir die-off as a result of the woolly Belgian. And as the trees died and fell, it opened up the canopy to young Fraser firs, which were not affected by the bugs. And so as the young trees grew up through all the downfall, it became almost an impenetrable jungle at the very top. And so we started working on trying to clear out the trails on the top. We also entered into a long-term lease with the town. It's a 25-year long lease, which the Pinnacle Park Foundation was the lessee. And that protected our efforts in that, because the town board can pass a resolution in 1992 and can rescind it in 1993 and adopt a new one. And that helped protect us from what later was an attempt to try to cut all the timber on Pinnacle Park. But we began to clear the trails, and in the beginning, there wasn't a whole lot of need for money. We got a few grants from Adopt a Trail, from the state, and every once in a while, the town of Sylva would chip in, and there were lots of clubs like the Rotary Club, Boy Scouts, prisoners, committed youthful prisoners who were just itching to get out of prison would come up here and work on those trails, clearing those trails. And we had hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteers who spent a lot of time just working on Pinnacle Park, and we didn't have to pay them. And in 2007, the North Carolina Clean Water Trust Fund purchased a conservation easement from the town of Sylva, and the town of Sylva now has $3 million in an account which is devoted to clean water efforts, most of which occurs in Pinnacle Park. This was put together by a company called Mainspring Conservancy Trust, that used to be called the Little Tennessee Land Trust, but it is the steward that enforces the provisions that were adopted when the conservation easement was sold by the town to Mainspring, which in turn transferred it to the North Carolina Clean Water and Land Trust is the name of it now. So by 2010, it was obvious that Pinnacle Park was a huge success. 10 years later, it was also obvious that it was being loved to death. It was visited every day by somebody. On the weekends, you can go up there now and there'll be 25 cars in the parking lot. Whenever I've had the opportunity to be in there and count visitors on Saturdays, it's not uncommon to in space of an hour walking down that you'll run into 35 people. So there's a lot of traffic. It's got a lot of exposure. And around that time, it was actually a bike proposal was made by Sylva to turn Pinnacle Park into a bike trail park. It is simultaneously and coincidentally, I realized that at that time in 2020, we needed to rejuvenate the board of directors that had been created years before. We hadn't been meeting regularly. We occasionally would get together and talk about something that would get done, but it wasn't real organized 4 years ago. However, it's real organized today. The board members are David Nestler, Steve Gray, Bill Gibson, Michael Wall, Brett Riggs, Pete Bates, Brian Barwatt, Alan Farmer, Dennis Desmond, Sonny Himes, and Kathy Matthews. They all serve on the board for free. We meet once a month. On the first Monday, you're welcome to come. We meet at my office and we talk about what needs to be done. And we've been doing this now for 3 years. So it's been a solid organization. And we are making some recommendations as we speak. We contracted with a company called Equinox in 2022 to create a biological survey. You paid for it. It was a $30,000 contract. And it created a footprint for us to figure out what's important in Pinnacle Park in terms of the biological picture. What kind of plants, what kind of animals. We have tons of maps and descriptions in here. I'm sure Paige has this in her library and it's a public document. So you might want to look into that. What's up there? We can tell you in this document right here, what's growing in Pinnacle Park. The reason for doing this was because we wanted, if we were going to build new trails, if we were going to put bike trails in there, we needed to know where the fauna was and the flora was that needs to be protected. There's a lot of rare species of things up there that don't need trails running through them. We've identified those now. So when we think we need to improve or create or take offline a trail, then we have a document that we can refer to. And so we'll be able to do that with some scientific assurity that we are doing the right thing. This was, by the way, it was Equinox was selected under a competitive bid process. We chose them because we thought that the price was right and also that they were the most qualified. We're working on a website. David Nestler is working on that. That should be up soon. We're working on a Friends of Pinnacle Park, which would be used chiefly to raise funds. We're working on creating a voluntary trail maintenance team that can go in after we do the initial mechanical equipment upgrade to continue to maintain it throughout. Some of those trails just are crying out for rejuvenation. And so we're going to do that. The biggest thing that we're doing right now, and this was, again, it was a competitive bid, but Equinox is now working on, and they have submitted this plan here. This is a master plan. And it is full of information about Pinnacle Park, about the area that Pinnacle Park's in, about the people it serves. This was put together over a 6-month period that involved many community meetings, a monthly steering committee meeting with Equinox. Surveys, you've probably answered some of the surveys that were sent out by Equinox to get information. And the purpose of doing this was twofold. Number one, to just get a concept, an idea of what Pinnacle Park needs to be in the next 10 years. What kind of thing do we want Pinnacle Park to be? And this is something that makes some recommendations based on surveys results that we got from the community, based on the public meetings that we had where we had charades where we figured out what was most important after talking with other board members before y'all were elected. And we need to talk to you about this as well. Because it is owned by the town of Sylva still. What we do is simply under a memorandum of understanding to do things that we volunteer to do that you can't really do. You don't have the resources or manpower or the time to do some of the things that we're willing to work on. So in addition to the town's efforts on this, we have invited the county to sit in on some of these meetings and sound up because they have a recreation department. They paid for this. They've put in $50,000 for this master plan. You put in $50,000. The Travel Development Authority put in $50,000. This is $150,000 product right here. But it's not just the product itself that we did this for. We are going to use this master plan. You have to have a master plan if you apply to the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund for funds to do the kind of things that we want to get done. And so this is going to be turned in. We've already turned in the preliminary report for the part is the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund acronym, or the part of funds. And what we're asking for is for campsite improvements, 26,000, outdoor classroom, 15,000, viewing platform, 31,000, benches, 36,000, signs, 94,000. And by the way, as far as signs are concerned, we want to put a sign at the mouth of Fisher Creek, a nice sign, a rock sign, something that's done artistically, like at the Grindstaff Cove road. We'd like to do a better sign than that, but anyhow, if we can get your approval of doing that sign, that would be great. That unit numbers will probably have to go up if we do that. Accessible platform, 21, accessible trail section, 12,000, trash receptacle, 28, 100, trailhead kiosk, 17, gateway entrance sign, like what we're talking about, 15,000, vault toilet, 157,000. Another rock wall in the parking area, 36,000, paved parking lot, 94,000, and trail improvements, 118,000. So we're in this application, we're asking for $596,000 in part of funds to do these improvements in Pinnacle Park. I feel like these are not going to be changing the essential nature of Pinnacle Park. It's going to be enhancing the usage in Pinnacle Park. And so we look forward to seeing what's going to happen when we get this one turned in. We're going to follow with a grant opportunity with the Rural Trails Program. The part of program addresses mainly things that you would typically see in a park, not necessarily a hiking trail park, but in like Bryce Park. You know, it's toilets, it's benches, it's signs, it's platforms, that kind of stuff. The trail improvements that we need to do will probably be through that Rural Trails Program grant. The limit on it is $125,000. The limit on the park is $1 million. But we're going to go for both of them with part of almost 600,000 with, rural trail programs. I'm not sure exactly how much that's going to be. We haven't, it's not on the same, timeline as the part of grant application is. So, we're going to be applying for that as well. And so this, infrastructure build out is going to require matching funds with part of, it's a 1-to-1 match. So one of the reasons for us gearing up for a Friends Pinnacle Park to raise money is because we've got to raise money to match whatever is done in with part. I feel that since the county has supported the purchase of the property on the backside back in 2019, $250,000. The $250,000 that you put into it. And we've had great support from the TDA, and we think that they'll support this. I think that we'll probably, with some fundraising, have enough money to match what part will approve. But I'm here to let you know that we're going to be wanting to shake that money tree sometime this year. And you've got the $3 million in your bank account that is used principally for Pinnacle Park to get there. And we'll be coming back to you on that later. I want to close, and you probably want me to close with an email that I got just the other day. And we email in our board of directors, we're constantly in touch with each other about doing lots of different things. And this is a good example that Sonny Himes, who's the associate instructor in the Department of Biology at Western Carolina University. She's one of the members of the board of directors. And it says, hello, fellow Pinnacle Park board members. I hope the Black Rock race was a huge success and everybody had fun that participated. What she's talking about is the assault on Black Rock. Every year we have a race that has got national attention. We had 156 race participants last Saturday, and I know because I was on top of Black Rock marking their race cards as they got there. They have to go from the parking lot at the head of Fisher Creek all the way to the top of Black Rock and come back down. The winner did that in 66 minutes. You can imagine. I remember walking up there in 2 hours and I was just proud of myself. They get there and back down, and the winners do is 66 minutes. That's tough. There's no telling what economic benefit that has in our community, not only on that day, but that weekend, and in just the notoriety of Sylva, people visiting Sylva for the first time. It's a great thing that they do. And that's sponsored by Brian Barwatt, who's also on our Pinnacle Park Board of Directors. I'm writing to remind everyone that the first non-native invasive plant volunteer workday at the park will occur a week from today, March the 27th. We have invasive species problems in Pinnacle Park, and we have Sonny is leading a volunteer effort to remove those invasive species. Now, they are also supported by a vendor that we have hired. I think it's around $5,000 to help with the herbicides that we need to use. And the volunteers are really going to be pulling things up and digging things up more than they are going to be spraying. But it's already had one spray through last fall. So that's the plant workday at Pinnacle Park on next Saturday. And then I wanted to also say we are co-sponsoring this event with Mainspring. Mainspring is the steward that put together the purchase of the conservation easement and who regularly goes in to make sure that everything that is supposed to be done pursuant to the conservation easement is being done. And Mountain True, I don't know if you know about Mountain True, but Mountain True is an outfit that, their vision is, thriving communities in our mountain region that are connected to and help sustain both each other and our natural environment. To achieve this, Mountain True fosters and empowers residents throughout the region to engage in community planning, policy, and project advocacy, and on-the-ground projects. This is an outfit in Asheville that is bringing people over again for free as volunteers to help sponsor doing all this. So we have a network of sponsors and participants, some of them that we pay and some of them who just do it because they think they want to do it. It's their volunteering. And so, and Sonny is doing this, as a volunteer as well. And if you want to join them next Saturday, they'll be in Pinnacle Park working. We have always been supported by Western Carolina University in terms of the people who are involved in our efforts. A lot of biology professors are on our board. And that's been true since we started in 1993 when Dan Patillo was on the board. So I hope that I've given you just a brief overview of what's going on up there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them, try to answer them.
I have one question, in regard to the sign that was discussed at the mouth of Fisher Creek. You saying we have the Pinnacle Park Board of Directors blessings to try to make that happen as a town board?
Yeah, and I think that if we get this grant from Cardiff that we've got, let me count here, we've got approximately $25,000 to do on signage. We'd like to have some of those signs that point to places like the Great Smoky Mountain, Blue Ridge Parkway, that kind of stuff on our major highways too. I think we'll have one on 74, two on 74 coming both ways and say, this is where you turn to go to Fisher Creek. And then if we've got that sign out in front of Fisher Creek, I think that, people will know this is where you turn to get there. 2 miles up Fisher Creek Road.
So would the Pinnacle Park Board want to be involved in the design of that sign?
Yeah, we would. I told somebody, I think Paige maybe, or maybe you, if you just got a couple of pickup trucks and drove up the first half mile of that road in there, you could get all the building stone right off the road itself that you need to build that, build that sign.
Yeah.
In a few hours, you'd have enough rock.
Could y'all come back with something along the lines of the sign you'd like to have so we can get some cost estimates?
Well, I think we all have a stone base and maybe stone columns, but if not, timber, and then someone who knows how to do a nice sign. It doesn't have to be real fancy, but it's I mean, we don't need a real expensive sign. I think we can do the sign economically. But yeah.
Has anyone contacted BT Green on that property?
I don't know.
I went by there a month ago and left a message at their office at the Wellville place to ask one family member to give me a call in regard to that issue, but I've not heard back.
Okay.
I think we need to see what kind of terms he can do us with. Who knows, he may just donate the land.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big sign.
No.
Big enough to see them, driving by, but it's not, doesn't need a half acre.
This is a tiny sliver of land that's
Yeah.
isolated on the right-hand side of Fisher Creek, and all the rest of the property is on the left, so I got this, I can't believe it's worth doing anything other than a sign.
So, in October, the final, decisions can be made by Carter. And I hope that in your budget process, you keep in the back of your mind that we need to raise about $300,000 from any source we can get it from to match what they do. Because if they approve a $600,000 grant, that means they're going to pay for half of it. We have to match the rest of it. I'm going to make a similar presentation. I hope for the county commissioners, in the future. And we're already in discussion with Travel Tourism Development Authority about that. And we're encouraged that, through some private donations, we may be able to get what we need. And certainly the trust fund that you've got is going to be a good source to get a lot of that. So, and that's what it's supposed to be used for. The $3 million, the interest generated off that is supposed to be used up there. So that's all I have this morning. Thank you for allowing me to come before you. So I will be doing this periodically forever, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Okay, moving on, found the agenda. Like Paige has a presentation about the Pride event application.
I'll give you some background. So the town board has always approved temporary road closure permits with the DOT for the stop, block, or detour traffic on state maintained roads. So in 2022, the staff updated our park application and procedure for outdoor special events. We started working on these changes because of increasingly large events being held at Bridge Park and requests for street closures for events like 5Ks. During the first Pride event, a car didn't realize that a parade was going down Main Street and it followed too closely. And during Walk for Hope, a car wasn't aware that the walk was happening and started to back out of their parking space on Main Street into the parade. So town staff realized that we needed to work to make these events safer. So we revised the outdoor special event application to encourage bigger events taking place at Bridge Park due to safety and constraints on manpower. Larger events just need more resources. So town staff can approve park rentals, but the authority to request closing the streets still lies with the board. So currently the board approves road closure permits for the Christmas parade, Bringing Up the Mountains, Western's Homecoming Parade, Treat Street, and July 4th. Walk for Hope and Veterans Day have both been moved to Bridge Park to limit traffic disruptions. Pride is requesting the 2-block march on Main Street that they have done the last 3 years. The park rental for Pride is approved, but the board needs to vote on approving the march only. Pride volunteers will staff the other events that weekend. Having a 2-block march would involve staff time for planning, coordination, and overtime the day of the event. But a total road closure would involve all resources like we do for the Christmas parade. So the board needs to vote on the temporary street closure resolution to submit the DOT for the same route that Pride has done the last 2 years. So and just so you know, as the board, when we submit that resolution to DOT, we're saying that the town is responsible for managing the road closure and accepting the liability. So if the march is approved, the board needs to decide whether to charge Pride for town resources involved with the road closure. The board has charged groups in the past for larger events, but that's mainly been for security and traffic control. The first example that comes to mind with that is the 2019 all classes Sylva Webster reunion.
So, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion that we deny this application in hand.
I have a question. So this is a vote to close a partial closure like we did the past two properties. So nothing would change. This would be the same type of closure.
Right.
And this would not require as many resources as like a full closure. Right. This way. So, okay.
I know that I was approached by Smoky Mountain High School seniors to do a parade. Can you remind me what the conversation was? Did they ever come? And like, what did you guys decide for?
Yeah, there's no road closure for that.
Right, but was there any creative ideas on what they could do?
I mean, not really.
Like, Like maybe walking on the steps of the courthouse, or what are you doing for? walkable?
Yeah, that's their plan, is they're gonna come. I really feel kind of speaking out of turn for them, but their plan is to bring down the seniors down the steps. Get some photographs of them up and down the steps there, and then go over to Bridge Park, but they're gonna use the sidewalk.
And then Veterans Day is no longer using the road. What's
That- If that's the plan right now, is they're gonna move that to Bridge Park and kind of have it's actually gonna be probably a bigger event, but it's just gonna be at Bridge Park instead of using the street. And Walk for Hope, that's the police department's event. We stopped it from using the street years ago now, so.
I know for a budget perspective, we're all concerned about that, and we're trying to think of creative ways to lessen overtime for the police department. Is that what you guys are thinking too? I know we're having our budget meeting coming up, but.
So, and this is for Sunday afternoon, 12:30 to 2:30. And have we approached Pride to ask them if they would be willing to pay for that partial closure, or has that been presented?
I've not, but it's typically been on the people coordinating the events to pay for officer time.
But that discussion, they haven't had
That's
that
in the
discussion.
application process.
Okay.
And then remind me, in the last 2 years, were the parking places blocked off, like the Christmas parade during that time? You guys remember?
No. They had cars in them.
Maybe, I think last year we did.
Last year there was an attempt to do that, but it wasn't done. That will need to be done anytime you close the street and have a parade to ensure public safety. So if someone, whether intentionally or unintentionally, gets into a vehicle and were to drive into people walking in the street, regardless of the event. So that's gonna take tremendous resources to remove those vehicles. And then obviously you've got the impact on your businesses downtown by closing part of their parking. Because you'll have to remove those, be sure those vehicles are gone well before the event starts, and you have to monitor that to be sure that no one parks there.
So if there's like, what, 3 churches downtown, breakfast establishments, so that would be affected. And then for like Western's Parade, are we blocking those spaces out now? We are.
Yes.
Our plan is, as John mentioned, our plan was to have those spots empty for Pride last year because of these situations, not just nationally, but even in our town where we've had people back, not on purpose, but backing into the situation, that kind of thing. But what we this is the first time we've done it for Pride, and so it was kind of an unsuccessful attempt because what we didn't realize is a lot of the folks that were coming into town that morning who usually aren't there, they're actually there to help with Pride. That's where they park. And so the kind of a lesson learned from the police department that day was like, okay, next year we're gonna have to actually block it off where nobody can park here, where it's impossible to park. Nothing on the folks that park there. They didn't know they weren't supposed to park.
Mary mentioned something that I wanted to, Leanne that brought us, that spoke during public comment and brought us this letter. I know there, may be some concern about, like you said, brunch, breakfast, but I did notice that there are several restaurants that are on Main Street that, according to this, have said that they would be fine with the road closure, including Lulu's, which is a pretty big spot there, and some other places. So I did want to put that out. And then I wanted to ask, because Commissioner Jones, you made the motion to deny. Did you have particular reasons or?
Yeah, I just think it's not the taxpayer's burden. to pay for this.
So are you suggesting if they paid for it, it would be okay, or you're just saying like we need to eliminate as many parades as are happening?
I think we need to eliminate as many parades because it will escalate.
I've always had concerns in the past about Saturday parades. Just for example, Christmas parade is during the height of small business income. And so that has interfered with a lot of small businesses are not open on Sundays. So that's why we as a town have shifted that one. Have we ever, as a town, looked at any alternate locations? Like Mill Street or Bridge Park. It's a parade of such size that we have to do it on a primary.
Just the way our town is laid out, we don't have very many detour routes. We're constrained by the railroad and the creek, and we just don't have very many roads.
Another problem is we don't have square blocks. Like if you go to Waynesville, if you've ever been there during a festival, it's really easy on them. They just block off a couple streets and you've got this, 2, 4 block, how many space you need. It doesn't work like that for us. If we want to block Main Street, we have to have people all the way up. Sometimes, well, like for some events, all the way on blocking the 74 exit. I mean, it's a bigger production on the block.
Would you have an estimate on how many people participate in Walk for Hope, for example, in that walk?
Now that we changed the method and we don't use the street anymore, it's a lot less. Like as far as police staff, it's only just a handful of people. It's not many.
And I like watching the pink flow around the street, and it seems like it's not too disruptive.
When we rent Bridge Park, did we close Railroad Avenue?
That's kind of permit specific, but generally we don't mind if the event needs that space, that's a really easy road to close off and keep people safe. Because that's railroad, it's easy to let the traffic know like, hey, this is closed or whatever. So usually what happens a lot of times is we call it blocking like grass to grass. So the grass of Bridge Park, you block it before and after, and that way you don't have any through traffic. Everybody can still get into the parking areas.
And then
Worth
also,
mentioning also that Railroad Avenue is a town-owned road.
Yeah,
We don't need a board resolution to
Yeah.
close it. Main Street, Mill Street, or DOT owned roads.
I felt like I read somewhere too, this is a 2-day event or a 1-day event.
So the festival itself, the march is gonna be at 2 o'clock on Sunday. We do have plans to do a Saturday evening event where we ask our local organizations that partner with Sylva Pride, such as Cornbread and Roses, that offers a free food pantry for neighbors in need, for them to be stationed around downtown at several of our local businesses, many of which are highlighted on Leanna Terry's letter. So it's kind of a way to ask people to come to support our local businesses. Kind of in response to that meeting that I had with Vern and Chris last year. I really want to make sure that this event gives back to the town of Sylva, that relieves that burden on the taxpayers of Sylva, because I care about them. I am one. So there is a 2-day event. We're hoping to expand it across Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but the festival itself is only going to be, and in Bridge Park is only going to be on Sunday.
I think that's an important note, at 2 o'clock, it's at 2 o'clock on Sunday, so. I mean, most of our businesses, a lot of our retail businesses are not open on Sunday. Church is out usually by noon, 30. I think if our biggest concern is staff and cost, I believe that should be, maybe a conversation we have with Pride, asking if they can help kind of alleviate that cost in exchange for the closure as another option. I mean, I personally think that that we need to look at this. Yes, we need to consider our retail, our businesses downtown, but I think we also need to consider our citizens, and what they would like to see as far as that goes. I don't think this is a huge ask. I think there's ways that we can make it work for everyone.
I don't think it's a huge ask either. However, I'm very concerned about the precedents that we're setting in the future of other organizations and how many that want to follow suit, like where do we draw the line or not? And it gets tricky.
So maybe that's a bigger conversation. How do we alleviate that cost? Do we, is it a problem if we can kind of navigate the issues that it could cause? Kind of get ahead of that.
So in 2022, we started making headway on not doing events.
We were trying to put larger events to Bridge Park.
And overall, that's been successful.
Because those groups, they agreed to go to Bridge Park, right? They were okay with moving to Bridge Park to those events.
Yes.
I'll just share that I got a phone call, about a week ago from, that gentleman's name was Chris Hall. He represented the Shriners, and they were working on parades on some path throughout the state. And, I told him that, our town, right now, we're trying to steer smaller parades to our bridge park events instead of having it strictly. And he said he understood, was at the end of that, so. Don't mean they won't call back and ask again. That was what I thought.
I think I would probably be a little bit more accommodating if this wasn't a primary road, and we're in a very awkward situation in Sylva because we don't have a lot of options.
Is closing Railroad Avenue, auction grill?
As far as like the marching on Railroad Avenue, I mean, that is already on the route, and largely it is closed off. Thankfully now with this new parking area, it won't be closed off to, cars coming into park, especially with the Lifeway, is that the name of the church?
Yeah.
The church that's right next to there. Of course, they have first dibs on that parking lot. I can present that to my board, if that's helpful. I can't, I may be present, but I don't like to speak on behalf of the entire board, but, that is definitely something that we could talk about.
That was gonna be my next, is it possible, Paige, Amanda, can we hold off, if we decide to hold off on this vote today? Can we push this?
If you hold off today, you just need to announce the time that you want to take it back up.
I would like to explore. I would like for Pride to be able to have a discussion as a board. I think, if we can continue this discussion and kind of answer it and kind of lay everything out, I think it would make sense to bring this to a future. I also personally would like all of our commissioners to be here for that vote. So I don't know what Commissioner Walter would do that, but.
What's the amount of time DOT needs on road closures?
9 days.
So we're still within the. Have you guys explored other thoughts on what you might do?
We had spoken with Chief Hatton, about, utilizing the courthouse steps. My concern is that, as an intergenerational organization promoting accessibility, across all abilities, is just really paramount to us, and we want everybody to be able to participate that wishes to. We could use Railroad Avenue and Mill Street. That wouldn't be quite the burden on the traffic flow. But I will say, if you'll allow me to advocate for the parade, that having this type of event for our community is huge. As somebody who grew up in Marshall, North Carolina, with the Basketball Lunsford Appalachian Music Festival, the Mountain Magic Festival, these events that allow our community to celebrate the people that are here, that are living their lives here, is really important to us. And so an organization that is built by and made for our town and our community within this town, I think is just really important to us. And we all would really love to see, that march across Main Street. I understand completely the burden that it places, but, I also believe in kind of that trade-off where, we do have the visibility for our community as well as, making space. As Leanne said, we make time, we make money, we find resources for the things that are special to us. And so I would just say that I encourage you all to see the value in the compassion and the love that we have for one another in our community as well as for the town of Sylva.
And is this something you would be willing to budget for?
Absolutely.
To
Sylva Pride is prepared to make this happen in any way that we can. And if that requires us to find ways to organize with some of our community partners, we are prepared to do so. We appreciate any support, but we will work very hard to make sure to help this happen if that is the pleasure of the board.
I'm just thinking in fairness that if we went through and said, yes, I don't feel like it's appropriate for us to use the tax dollars to fund it. Do you guys have a,
I mean, I think
on that?
I think this is a good conversation because I think you talk about setting the precedents. And I do think that if we are going to allow one group and ask them to pay, then we're gonna have to keep that consistent throughout for non-town sponsored events. And I personally don't think that's a bad idea if it sounds like one of our concerns is the strain on our tax dollars or on our. So,
Which are only gonna get worse.
yeah.
It's like better.
But I do believe in events like this that are cultural and community focused and involve a lot of different people in our community. I think that they're important. So I also don't want to set the precedence of denying these types of events to happen, because I do think they're good for our town to have.
Pardon me, I will say that there are people that come from far and wide. There are people that come in from, outside of Atlanta. There are people that come in from Murphy. There are people that come down east, to see an event like this in a small town. Like I said, I love being able to walk down the street and say, hey, how's your mama? How you doing? Or just that kind of environment, is just really special to us. And so to have an event like this that celebrates our community in Sylva is really important to us.
So Chris, I think this is directed to you, like when events happen at the Bridge Park that require police, any kind of over 21 beer events, that kind of thing, we have a rate, we have like a fee schedule. Is that quote that I saw, I think in the Sylva Herald, an accurate quote of what it would take to put this event on, or is that something that needs to be going back to the drawing board?
Yeah, I don't know where that number came from. I don't know if it's on my head. But they maybe will tell something.
There's not alcohol sold at Pride though.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, I just wondered how they came up with that, like what they pay their event.
I got that from Kate.
You got that from Paige.
What was that big?
It was like
$700 and something dollars. Yeah.
770, something like that.
That sounds right.
And that's would be the cost for staffing and.
It's whatever is in the fee schedule times the number of officers Chris would determine we needed. For the number of hours.
And I will say events that are in Bridge Park, the main consumption of time and money for us in Sylva is because of the way our streets are laid out, to stop traffic on Main Street and to keep it where there's no cars there and all that stuff, that the logistics, it's traffic posts. And like I said, it's not just on Main Street. It's, for example, you can't let an 18-wheeler come into town. So one person, a police officer, has to sit down there and catch any 18-wheeler that's coming from Dillsboro and say, no, you got to take this circle and you're going to have to find another way. Like you can't. So that's one person. And then there's all the way up to the 74. I mean, it's all around. It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot more than what you think about when you're just standing there. It seems pretty simple. And then on top of that, you still need to be the police at the event too, right? So not just traffic directors. We need somebody around, thinking about security and that kind of thing. So the events at Bridge Park are extremely less manpower intensive for us. I hate to say easy, but that compared to blocking Main Street, that's a really easy day for us. We only need just a few people. We can block it off with water barricades and that kind of thing to keep traffic from coming through. Because it's contained. And, these events, like we have people moving down the street, we're worried about vehicles or, anything bad that could happen to them, because obviously we want everybody to be safe. When those people start moving, it gets really.
So could we put this into a perspective of getting an amount that we feel is appropriate, tabling this, letting you go back to your board and discuss if we want to do this event, the town may or may not approve it at this cost?
Sure, absolutely.
Would that be amendable or?
Well, as we've been before in this situation, we do have a motion on the floor. It would be up to Mark if he wanted to amend his motion or not.
And if we voted on this now, then the issue would not come back up.
Not necessarily, it could be applied for in a different way. Uh, Just this application is what we're reviewing now.
So they could apply again under different terms.
Yeah.
For the same events. I'm looking at Paige and Amanda.
It would need to be different.
You would need to be requesting something totally different.
Different time, day, and again, all of that.
In order for it to be considered a different vote.
I think what we're considering here is Main Street, correct?
Because they'd be.
Yes.
Okay, yes, we're saying we couldn't ask for a parade again because you're denying the temporary road closure permits.
So I think it would be best if Commissioner Jones, if you're open to defending your motion so that we can give everybody's a little bit more time. You're open to that?
No.
Well, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say aye. All opposed, by like sign. Motion carries. Moving on to the downtown public restrooms, exterior paint colors. In our last meeting, we reviewed all these and talked about it. Seemed like there was consensus of most people that liked the battleship gray. And there was also the fact that that was determined by some older folks and some old pictures that was the color of the old saying, and good standing with the historical thing with the old deco. So I don't know if we want to open it up for discussion or not. I think if we can discuss it after we have a motion. I would entertain a motion that we use the battleship gray color for our depot or for our red cream, not the depot. Okay, we have a motion. We have any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed, by like sign, motion carries. And I think that takes care of our business for the day. We'll have a budget meeting after this. We'll take a 15 or 20-minute recess, or not a recess, but we'll adjourn this meeting and start a budget meeting in about 20 minutes.
Let's plan on 20 to 25. That'll give us time to get lunch set up.
That could even 30.
You want to just make 30 minutes and have time to eat, all that. So I didn't find a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign, the motion carries. We stand adjourned.